Imagine dedicating years of your life to building something with trembling hands from exhaustion, but a heart full of hope. That's how it all began for me. I didn't come from privilege or shortcuts. My career wasn't luck. It was the result of sleepless nights, missed plans, and choosing no when everyone else said enjoy life. While others moved forward without looking back, I stayed up late imagining a future that felt too big for someone like me. And yet, I decided to chase it anyway. That dream had a name. It had a shape. And it had a deadline. It was the career of my life, the one that was going to change everything. For years, I prepared for that moment. Every small achievement felt like confirmation that I was on the right path. My professors believed in me. My bosses started noticing my work. For the first time, I felt something dangerous, confidence. And he was there. My friend. Or at least, that's what I believed. We met when neither of us was anything yet. We shared frustrations, fears, ambitions. We talked about the future as if we were building it together. He knew every step I took, every opportunity one chased, every door I tried to open. I trusted him completely. No filters, no doubts, no suspicion. When my first real successes started to arrive, he was the first to congratulate me. Or so it seemed. I remember the exact day I felt something was off for the first time. It wasn't a disaster. It wasn't an obvious betrayal. It was something far more unsettling, an opportunity that disappeared without explanation. An interview that, according to them, I never confirmed. An email I supposedly never replied to, but that I never received. I thought it was a mistake. Then I thought it was stress. Later, I thought the problem was me. The following weeks became a series of small, inexplicable defeats. People who once treated me with enthusiasm suddenly turned cold. Projects that seemed guaranteed vanished right before being finalized. And every time I tried to understand what was happening, everything slipped through my fingers. Meanwhile, my friend was still there, listening to me, advising me, telling me things like, maybe you're moving too fast. Perhaps it wasn't the right moment. Sometimes it's better to take a step back. They sounded reasonable, comforting even. But something inside me started to feel wrong. It wasn't fear. It was the constant feeling of falling without knowing why. I began to doubt myself, to review every past mistake, every decision I had made. Had I been arrogant? Had I messed up? Did I really deserve to be where I was? Insecurity crept in silently, like an invisible crack you don't see until the building starts to collapse. The night everything changed, I stared at my computer for hours. In front of me was a short, cold, final message. Another opportunity canceled. Another vague explanation. Another door quietly closing. I turned off the screen and sat in silence. I didn't know it yet, but that was the exact moment when my career began to fall apart. And the most terrifying part wasn't the fall. It was that someone was pushing it from very close. At first, I told myself it was just a bad streak. Everyone has one, right? That's what I repeated every morning as I checked my inbox, hoping to see that reply that never came. The confidence I had built over the years began to erode slowly, like a wall eaten away by moisture. It doesn't collapse all at once, but one day you realize it can no longer hold anything. Rejections started piling up. Some were polite, others were cold, and many never came at all. Just silence. People who used to reply within minutes now took days or never answered. And when I finally managed to speak to someone, there was something different in their tone, as if a decision had already been made before they even listened to me. We don't think you're the right fit right now. We've decided to go in a different direction. Generic phrases, empty words, but repeated too many times to be ignored. The worst part wasn't being rejected. It was not knowing why. I began to notice strange things. Side comments, awkward looks. One acquaintance asked me, almost with pity, if everything was okay with me. Another avoided eye contact altogether. I had no idea what they were talking about, but they did. Meanwhile, my former friend stayed close. He called to check on me, invited me out when he noticed I was down, listened carefully as I vented, nodding along, sighing with me. He even seemed angry on my behalf. "It's not fair what's happening to you," he said. "You're too good for this." And I believed him. When I started doubting my own abilities, he was right there with advice. but it was strange advice. It always involved stepping back. Maybe you should let this opportunity go. You shouldn't expose yourself so much right now. Not everyone is ready for someone like you. It sounded like caution, like care. But every piece of advice pushed me further away from where I wanted to be. My performance began to suffer, not because I lacked skill, but because fear was eating me alive. I slept poorly, replayed conversations over and over, reread messages looking for mistakes that weren't there. Every unexpected call made my heart race. Every silence dragged me deeper. Then something happened that I couldn't ignore. In a casual conversation, someone mentioned a very specific detail about me. Something only one person knew. Something I had never shared publicly. I froze. I asked how they knew. The answer was vague. Too vague. That night, I remembered every time I had spoken without filters, every detail I had shared, every insecurity I had confessed, always to the same person. For the first time, a forbidden thought crossed my mind. A thought I immediately tried to reject. What if someone was using all of that against me? I shook my head. No, impossible. We were friends. We had been through too much together. But the collapse didn't stop. It accelerated. One morning, I woke up to a message that took the air out of my lungs. A key project had been canceled, not because of my skills, not because of budget issues, but because of something worse. My reputation was no longer considered reliable. I read that line over and over. Not reliable. That's when I knew this wasn't bad luck anymore. Someone was speaking for me, deciding for me, closing doors before I could even knock. And even though I still didn't have proof, an uncomfortable truth was starting to take shape. The enemy wasn't outside. He was far too close. There are thoughts you don't want to have. Ideas so cruel that your mind rejects them before you can even analyze them. Distrusting a stranger is easy. Distrusting someone who was part of your life feels like a betrayal in itself. For days, I tried to ignore that feeling. I told myself I was paranoid, that stress was messing with my head. But the more I tried to let it go, the more details from the past began to take on a new meaning. Conversations that once seemed harmless now sounded different. Comments I had taken as jokes, silences I had overlooked. Phrases like, "Sometimes people feel uncomfortable when they see you moving too fast," no longer sounded like warnings, they sounded like clues. So I decided to observe. Not confront. Not accuse. Just watch. I started sharing less and listening more. I fed small pieces of false information into conversations, invented details about supposed opportunities. Tiny tests. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to see if anything leaked. And it did. A contact called me asking about a project I had never mentioned to anyone, except him. Not with excitement, but with suspicion, as if they already had an opinion about me. I hung up and felt a chill run down my spine. That night, I went through old conversations, messages, emails, voice notes, not looking for direct proof, but for patterns, and I found them. Every time something important in my career was about to happen, he appeared with a warning. Every time I doubted myself, he reinforced that doubt. Every time I failed, he seemed prepared. He had achieved things I hadn't. Contacts that appeared out of nowhere. Opportunities that lined up perfectly with my setbacks. It wasn't just his success, it was advantage. The thought hit me hard. Maybe he wasn't competing with me. Maybe he was eliminating me. Still, I needed more. Something undeniable. Something I couldn't explain away as coincidence. The proof came from the least expected place. One afternoon, someone showed me part of a conversation. Not the full thing, just a fragment. In it, someone spoke about me in words I will never forget. They questioned my ethics, my stability, my professionalism. They did it using deeply personal details. Painfully personal. There was no name attached. But I recognized the tone. The expressions. My own story, twisted and weaponized. I sat down. Anger, shame, pain, all at once. But above everything else, I felt something I had never felt toward him before, fear. Because I finally understood something even worse. This wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotional. It was planned. Months, maybe years. Listening, observing, waiting. The betrayal wasn't a punch. It was a slow, silent surgery. That night, I made a decision that terrified me. I couldn't keep doubting. I couldn't keep falling. If I wanted to save my career, I had to face the truth, even if it meant losing someone I once called a friend. And what I was about to uncover was going to change everything. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Every piece fit together with terrifying precision. This wasn't a series of mistakes, it was a system, and I was the target. I stopped playing defense. For weeks, I had been putting out fires someone else was starting. This time, I needed real proof. Silence. Patience. The same patience he had used on me. I reached out again to people who had drifted away. Some never replied. Others agreed to talk, carefully. That's when the truth began to surface, fragmented, uncomfortable, painful. One person told me they had been warned that I was difficult. Another said I couldn't be trusted with sensitive information. Someone else mentioned that a close friend had expressed concerns about my professional stability. A close friend. I didn't need to ask who. The final proof arrived when I least expected it. A forwarded conversation, not sent to me by accident, not by mistake. Someone had decided enough was enough. In that message, my former friend spoke about me with a coldness I had never seen before. There was no anger, no emotion, just calculation. He described my weaknesses as tools, my fears as strategic advantages, my mistakes as opportunities to get ahead. There it was, black and white. No room for doubt. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt something worse, a frozen calm. The absolute certainty of having been betrayed by someone who knew me far too well. I called him. Not to accuse him. Not yet. We met in a neutral place, a random cafe. He arrived smiling, like always. Asked how I was doing. If my bad streak had finally improved. His voice sounded sincere. Practiced. I didn't circle the issue. I asked him why certain people believed things about me that had never come from my mouth. I asked how private information had spread. I looked him straight in the eyes. For a second, he cracked. Just a slightly longer blink. A tiny pause, but it was enough. Then he denied everything. Said people must be confused. Said I was seeing things. Said stress was getting to me. That's when I placed my phone on the table and showed him the message. The silence was brutal. The smile vanished. He stopped talking, looked down, and in that moment, I understood something that hurt more than the betrayal itself. He didn't feel guilty. He tried to justify it, said the world was competitive, that nothing was given for free, that I would have done the same in his place, that he just moved first. That's when everything broke. I stood up without saying another word. There was nothing left to say. The friendship died at that table, but the damage had already been done. I walked out with one clear truth and one devastating reality. My reputation was damaged, my opportunities nearly destroyed, and my career hanging by a thread. The sabotage was over, but the consequences were just beginning. And the worst part was knowing I now had to rebuild my professional life from the ruins. After the confrontation, I didn't feel relief. I felt emptiness. For days, I moved through life on autopilot. I had spent so long fighting to uncover the truth that I wasn't prepared for what came next. Because exposing the traitor doesn't repair the damage, it only makes it visible. My career was fractured, not destroyed, but deeply wounded. People who once trusted me now hesitated. Opportunities one had worked years for no longer existed. And worst of all, there was a shadow over my name that couldn't be erased with a single conversation. I hit rock bottom. There were nights when I seriously considered walking away, starting over in something completely different, accepting that maybe the dream had been too big or that someone else had simply decided to take it from me. But then I realized something critical. If I quit, his sabotage would be complete. So I made the hardest choice, to rebuild without bitterness, but with truth. I started slowly, reaching out to the few people still willing to listen, not to play the victim, but to clarify. I showed proof when necessary. I owned real mistakes, but exposed the lies. Not everyone believed me. Not everyone came back. And that hurt too. But some did. And those few were enough to restart the path. The process was slow, humbling, at times humiliating. I had to prove twice as much. Speak less, deliver more. Every small win felt insignificant compared to what I had lost, until one day I realized something had changed. I had my voice back. My former friend didn't walk away untouched. The same people he used to undermine me began noticing inconsistencies in his stories. The excuses stopped adding up. When your success depends on destroying someone else, eventually you run out of people to blame. I didn't celebrate his fall. It didn't bring me satisfaction. Because by then, I had learned the real lesson. The most dangerous sabotage isn't loud. It's silent. It disguises itself as advice. It earns your trust before using it against you. I learned to guard my information, to observe more, to stop confusing closeness with loyalty. And most importantly, I learned that not everyone who walks beside you wants to see you arrive. Today, I'm still moving forward. My career isn't the same. It's stronger, more aware, more real. The dream didn't die. It was tested in the cruelest way possible. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, let me tell you this. You're not paranoid. You're not overreacting. And you're not alone. Sometimes the enemy doesn't push you from behind. They walk next to you, smile, and wait for the exact moment to let go of your hand.